Hello, everybody. Happy Sine Die to everyone. This has been it's great. This is our last press conference of the year, and so I've enjoyed chatting with everybody every Friday and getting to know everybody better. And so hopefully it's been helpful for you. I'm still disappointed. As you know, there was a couple of nominees that didn't get over the finish line. And so I think that's something that Oklahomans need to understand. There's some weird stuff happening on that. Heather Turner was a great Oklahoman, ran the Jinx Chamber of Commerce. She didn't get confirmed as our Commerce Director. Dr. Corey Finch, medical doctor, great Oklahoman, veteran, did not get confirmed as the Secretary of Health and Mental Health. Deb Shropshire, she's also a medical doctor, has worked at DHS for, 15 years, did not get confirmed as the Secretary of Human Services. Susan Bergen, great Oklahoman, rancher, agricultural, just very successful agricultural person. And Susan did not get confirmed as the OSU new regent. Alex Gray did not get confirmed for the state school board or state education board, higher education board. Leah Gaddis did not get reconfirmed. She was already on the Wildlife Commission, didn't get reconfirmed to be on the Wildlife Commission. And then Audrey Cadigan did not get confirmed for the Libraries Board. Which I didn't think the Libraries Board was a really controversial board, but somehow something happened on that board as well. But it's been a productive session. We started out the session by passing, which I'm really happy about. I was talking about it in 2019 when I first became governor, and it was to eliminate the grocery tax. As you know, we were one of only 12 states that taxed groceries, and very regressive tax, disproportionately hurting people in the lower income bracket. And so we're excited to get that across the finish line. That got done early on, and we're excited to get that implemented. Also had some of our priority bills get done this session. The first one was the Women's Bill of Rights, and that was kind of codifying my executive order. So I was really excited to get that one done. We set up the framework for business courts. And you've heard me talk about that before. And for Oklahomans that haven't heard me, I want Oklahoma to be the most business-friendly state in the country. And if we do that, that is going to help our economy. That's going to help education, healthcare, infrastructure. It's going to help our state grow. It's going to help wages increase. And so we just put the framework together for business courts. We're seeing other states stumble. You see what's happening with President Trump and the court system in New York, which I think this is going to have a huge long tail with businesses fleeing New York when they see what they can do to someone up there in that court system. It's just unjust. It's unbelievable. And so you see Delaware stumbling, and I want to make sure that our businesses know they're protected in the state of Oklahoma from out of control weaponization of district attorneys, attorney generals. We want to make sure that people know that they're safe in the state of Oklahoma. Choosing Childbirth Act was also a priority. The felony reclassification, this is a huge win for Oklahomans. Obviously, criminal justice reform is something that I've been passionate about since I came into office in 2019. We were last place when I was running for governor in incarceration rates. We incarcerated more men and women than any other state. And so we went about looking at some of our policies, and now we're 40th. We've saved the taxpayer hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars by locking up people that we're actually afraid of, not just who we're mad at. And so this classification is something that other states have done it. Texas went through this, but it was a huge battle. We've been working on it for years. And I want to specifically give a lot of kudos to Representative Osborne. He did an amazing job of working with district attorneys and working with all the groups to get our classification A, B, C, D on crimes. And there's still some work to do, but also narrowing the ranges of sentences. I think most Oklahomans would agree with me that it's really weird for the same crime to be punished 40 years in one county and 1 year in another county. So we're trying to limit those ranges and actually determine what the punishment should be, and then make sure that it kind of is it's across the state of Oklahoma. So C and D's, we actually got some ranges. We got the ranges kind of in line. A and B crimes are still going to work on next year, but Osborne did an amazing job. Senator Rader, also want to give him a lot of kudos and shout outs for working on that. Just did a great job of bringing people together. So really glad we got that across the finish line as well. But with that, let me open it up to questions and comments, what you'd like to hear more about.
With those executive nominations that will not confirm this, what happens now?
Yeah, so basically they're fired from their jobs. So, the governor appoints people. The governor's job, like Kevin Corbett, for example, was in the job as Secretary of Health for 5 years and then wasn't confirmed last year. We put Corey Finch up, Dr. Finch, and so he's been running that, advising the governor, meeting with that agency. And I don't know exactly how long he's been on the job, but he can no longer work. And so the governor will appoint another person. So we'll appoint new people to all these different positions. And but what's hard is it's hard to find the right people. And if anybody's ever hired someone, having to recruit and go through the interview process, finding the right people with the right acumen. And then, the Senate's job is to, confirm those, advice and confirm, I think is what it says. And so as long as they don't have criminal backgrounds and they generally are moving in the right direction, that's kind of the job, is just to make sure that they're good Oklahomans and they meet all the qualifications. It's not to pick on, and I mean, I'll move on to Commerce for a second. Commerce has been leaderless now for about 18 months. Last year, they fired the person that we put over that, and so I don't know exactly what they're looking for, but my job is to nominate the very best Oklahomans, and I'll go back to the drawing board, and we'll hopefully get in the month of June, we'll get some other people back up to run these agencies and advise the governor on these very, very important things as we're running the executive branch. But hopefully Oklahomans understand what's happening, and they have to call and ask their senator what they had against Heather Turner or Dr. Corey Finch, and what the reason was there.
Could you elaborate a little bit on your thoughts on the Trump conviction and how that relates to Oklahoma being business money or not?
Yeah, I think, and I've received a lot of texts, and as most people are, that was probably the conversation around most of the dinner tables last night, and it will certainly be today. It's kind of occupying a lot of the news right now. In one sense, when you hear somebody's convicted of 34 counts of something, you're like, man, they must have done something really, really wrong. But when you really drill down and you realize what's happening, people are starting to really question and start being
Governor, you have a lot of decisions to make, I think, in the next 15 days. If I'm not mistaken, you decide to veto or sign or pocket veto as the term goes. Bills sent to you in the last 5 minutes of session. You have a lot of bills. I asked you a little bit yesterday about there's commerce reforms, right? They want to split commerce into 2 divisions. I'm curious your thoughts on that as it relates to, they will confirm your appointee, but they want to reform the agency. And then also, you're from Tulsa, you own land in Tulsa. There's a bill, Senate Bill 1424, that's been sent to you regarding liability for the application of poultry waste. And this is a major issue in the state. The question, this bill would limit that liability, limit a landowner's right to sue if they are following a nutrient management plan by the state. I know you support agriculture, but I also know your business is based in the Tulsa area. The city of Tulsa is very opposed to this. And you as a landowner, I'm sure you may have thoughts on your own rights to sue if somebody has, impacted your land. So I'm curious your thoughts on all those bills, anything you may have decided on already, want to ask about.
So we have 14 days to kind of review them. I think we got 90 bills yesterday, something like that. Our team's going through all those right now. As far as the commerce bill, we'll dig into that more. But no, if there's great reform, and I think one of the parts of that bill is they put a committee together, 5 House members, 5 Senate members, to review big projects. It's a great idea. We have no problem with that. And so generally, I'm okay with that. But I think the real question is, why not confirm Heather Turner? So now we're going to go out and we're going to do our best to find the next Heather Turner. And Heather was the Jinx economic development, one of the fastest growing, cities in our state. And hopefully we can find another great person to put up and start running that agency until next May. And then we'll hopefully get the next one across the finish line. So I'll review that bill, but generally no problem with if there's better ideas. I mean, I've even considered privatizing the Commerce Department. Other states have done that and do a public-private partnership and really get that out of state government and pay people based on performance, right? So pay them based on what type of deals they bring into the state. So if there's reform and there's things that we want to do, we're generally, okay with that. The poultry bill, I've already signed it. Very excited about that bill. It's one of the reforms that we've been looking for a long time. And basically, just so Oklahomans know, what that means is if you have a permit to have a chicken farm, for example, and a poultry house, and this is what you do, this is your living, and you're following all the rules that your permit says, then you're immune from someone coming in and saying, well, you should have done something different. The rules weren't strict enough, or this or that. If we want to change the rules in Oklahoma, change the rules. But you can't have a business, have a permit, doing what they're supposed to do, and then come in and let a frivolous lawsuit take place and somehow put them out of business. That's un-American. It's not going to happen in Oklahoma. So for those reasons, I signed that bill. We had a former attorney general that sued the chicken industry, even though they were following all the rules at the time, saying they should have done something different. It took 13 years, and this attorney general brought this lawsuit back up. And so hopefully this will settle this once and for all. If you have a permit and you're doing what the state says you should do, in my movie, that's what you should be doing. And so for those reasons, I signed the bill. But it also increased the fines. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then the Department of Ag should hammer you for that, or you should be held accountable for not following the rules versus on your permit. So that's what that bill said. I was glad to get it across the finish line.
Governor, thank you for taking my questions today. I wanted to ask about a provision in the State Department of Ed's budget this year that lawmakers said is supposed to target PR contract that Superintendent Walters has signed with the company that handles national media bookings. The agency says that it could touch a lot of different things, want their operations, it's overly broad as it relates to promotion and public relations. So I'm just curious if you were concerned to see something like that included in the budget, if that's something you would want to put stop to. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're in the weeds, and I always try to explain to Oklahoma what's happening. But generally, if someone's using state resources, not generally, if someone's using state resources for self-promotion, that's wrong. We want to stop that. My first executive order when I came into office in 2019 was to ban lobbyists from state agencies hiring lobbyists. So I may do another executive order to stop state agencies from hiring outside PR firms. I don't like it. But I also don't like picking on one executive agency or one Department of Education. And If there's a rule that's good for one agency, maybe let's have it across the board for all state agencies. And so let's not pick on just one agency. So we're still reviewing that. It's part of the budget. It's part in some kind of limits bill. And so we're looking at that. I know that was a very controversial piece of legislation on the floor. So we're still reviewing it. But there's no possible way I want state dollars being spent to promote. And if you've got a comms department in your shop, in your state agency, why do we hire PR firms? I think it's a waste of taxpayer money all across the board.
Speaking of controversies in the education department, you're probably aware that the Board of Education approved several administrative rules proposals. The legislature did not bring them up for either the House or the Senate, brought them up for a vote. That's a policy you to determine if they're approved or disapproved. What do you think about that? When might you decide or act on that?
I think on those, and that it comes to me in a resolution format, so we have longer than the 15 days to act on them. So we have, I think, 20, 25 days or so. We're still reviewing all those, but I know that we all want to improve education. We believe in accountability, but as far as the details of those bills, I'm still going through those. Our teams are going through them. The legislature did not act on them, and so those are on our desk, and we'll have a response here over the next 20 days or so.
Yesterday, House Democrats criticized the budget, saying you left $1 billion on the table that they could have.
The Democrats said we wanted to spend another $1 billion. Is that what you're saying?
That's what they said. They said we left $1 billion on the table. Do you have plans to? The income tax cut did not make it across. Do you have plans to call them back in for a special session? Or are you waiting, new leadership at the House and Senate next year waiting?
If I could call the Democrats back in and get a tax cut, I would do that tomorrow. I find it interesting that the Democrats are saying we left $1 billion on the table. Listen, government's not the answer. Actually, most of the time, government is the problem. We want to get government out of people's lives, creating more government. You guys have heard my speech on this all the time. So no, we did not. We overspent again. We've got to keep spending around where our revenue is, but we also have to keep a healthy savings account so we don't put ourselves in a bad situation. So yeah, I'm sure politicians can think of 100 things to spend taxpayers' money on. I'm not one of those. I think we should give that back to the taxpayer in the form of a tax cut. And why don't we ask those same Democrats what do they want to tax people? How much is enough? How much spending is enough? And so we still spent too much, but so happy that we still have a great savings account. Our economy's booming. We passed some great legislation to continue this momentum as the most business-friendly state, and very optimistic. I mean, people are looking to Oklahoma because as much as we're spending, California's spending a whole bunch more than us, and so we're looking really good.
There's a bill before you right now. It looks to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, it looks to reestablish the Oklahoma-Israeli exchange, so to create a business relationship with Israel, having residents in Jerusalem. Are you familiar with that bill? Would you support it or sign it in this case?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that bill, but as far as our support for Israel, 100%, we support Israel. Anything we can do, they're our biggest and best ally in the Middle East, and the democracy over in the Middle East, that they just think the way that we do, and we want to be supportive of them. So beyond that, I don't know exactly what that bill does.
Along with the AI announcement yesterday and the recommendations of the task force on emerging technologies, will there be a chief artificial intelligence officer and oversight committees to make sure the use of AI is responsible, especially with state agencies?
Well, in our executive order, we had every agency appoint an AI designee to kind of walk through and make sure we're coordinating the AI for that agency, and then we're letting our chief information officer know how we can implement AI through the agencies to make government more efficient. As far as having an overall AI expert, that's something I'll talk to the IT team to see if we need to do that. There's no plans that I know of to do that at this point. But yesterday was a great announcement. We have Google coming in to help us on workforce. They're training about 10,000 Oklahomans for free. And that's something all for our young people out there and for people watching. There's some tools that you can get retrained, and AI is an emerging industry that's going to continue to disrupt every part of business, whether it's manufacturing, agriculture, the education space, call centers. And the more you can get familiar with that, I think the better off and the more marketable your skills are. So I just encourage people and Oklahomans to take advantage of those tools. And that's certainly something that we're pushing throughout state government.
The House and Senate overrode your veto on Senate Bill 210, the police pension bill. Can you talk a little bit about, your response to that?
Yeah, super disappointing, and I think Oklahomans need to understand this. It's a short-term win, right? So think about this for a second. I could have signed that bill and taken a victory lap, and look, I'm supporting law enforcement. Everybody knows I support law enforcement, but here's the facts of that bill of what it actually does. There's already, if you're a police officer, you get 75% of your income for life. When you retire, you get 75% of it, okay? They make some of the larger municipal law enforcement makes $116,000 a year. That's a lot of money where I come from. $87,000 a year you already get for life, okay? This bill took it to 90%. 90%. So now you're going to get 90% of your income. The argument was it's going to help with recruiting. Let me ask you a question. If I can retire right now and get 90% of my salary, that incentivizes me to retire early. If I could only get 75% of my retirement, I would say, well, Sarah, man, we have to replace 25% of our income. Maybe I should work for a few more years. Yes, she would tell me, absolutely, we're going to keep you working. But if I can get 90% of my salary, it's going to encourage me retirement now. So that's on the practical side. But what people don't realize is next year, guess what? The firefighters are going to want 90%. The teachers are going to want 90%. Highway patrol wasn't in this deal. They're going to come back and want 90%. This is exactly what happened. There's a great national article on this that was talking about this exact same thing. California did this exact same thing. When their pensions were in good shape, they took them from 75% to 90%. Guys, if there's no limit on government spending, take them to 100%. How about 110? It's not fair that you have any deduct when you retire, right? Let's take them to 100%. The private sector can't compete with that, okay? And so the problem is we're going from 75% to 90%. So it's disappointing, but again, it's a short-term win. And when you have people that are politicians looking for the short-term win, looking for the endorsement from law enforcement as I run next time, then you vote that way, okay? And that's why Oklahomans voted for me, because I'm the businessman governor, and they know that I don't just go along to play the political games. And so I even think it's the best politics. I think Oklahomans understand they're too smart for those little flyers that get mailed out that say, oh, he's not for police, or he's not for this, or he's not for that. They know when you're fighting for them. And so anyway, it got overridden. That's the law. Now law enforcement, the municipal law enforcement, but more than that, the retirees, think about this. The retirees that wanted a COLA is like a cost of living adjustment. So let's say I've retired, and I retired 20 years ago. And when I retired, I only had 75%, and I get $45,000 a year. So that's what the salaries were 20 years ago. Well, occasionally I'd want a COLA. I want a 3% increase. Well, you can't do a COLA if the pension funds don't have the money in them. And so all the new guys that are 3 years from retirement or 1 year that are at the top of the helm that get to hire the lobbyists to come in here and pass this legislation, they love it. But all the retirees, they can kiss their COLAs goodbye for probably, 20 years, maybe forever. Because if the pension funds take a turn like I think they will, then there won't be money for COLAs. And so anyway, short-term gain politically today, long-term problematic for taxpayers in Oklahoma.
On spending as well, funding for the open housing is also on investment. That's taken a while to get anywhere with. Are you supportive of funding, get it across the finish line? Is
It's the Pop Museum. Probably, so I think that's in the budget negotiation. So I agreed not to veto certain things that we agreed on, and I'll stick with my word on that. The museum in Tulsa, I think it was a bill last year. They're funding it this year as long as Tulsa can privately fundraise the matching funds for that. And so we're probably going to get that across the finish line. I don't know exactly where that's at or if I've signed that one yet, but that one's one that's probably going to go forward. It's part of that budget negotiations.
I got it real quick. We promised not to veto the budget. Were you talking specifically about the GA bill or all the trailer bills and set limits too? Did you still veto the limits bill that's coming away?
You know, we agreed not to veto the things that we agreed were in there on the, so if there's things that are added later on, yes, we think that's fair game and we'll look at that closely. But the deal that we cut on that Wednesday is whatever was agreed upon at that point. We were not going to veto that budget in exchange for some of the business court, some of the business friendly items that we were able to get in the agreement as well. So we're still looking through that to see if was there anything added on that was not part of our agreement on the day we agreed to it.
That includes the education budget bill. That's controversy yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think that was in the original agreement, so we're still looking at that part of it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.